with citizens and legislators about the inequities and the threats posed by the landfill. D.U.M.P intends to continue holding these public education meetings. Going forward, D.U.M.P will continue to fight for environmental justice in the Northeast Kingdom. The board and D.U.M.P's members will continue to monitor and hold the private landfill owner, operator, and state regulators accountable for evidence-based, impartial, and environmentally sound decisions. We wish to thank all volunteers and financial donors for their support of D.U.M.P's mission in protecting the waters and watershed of Lake Winnebago. Thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your attention.
What comes to mind when I think of John is, and I can hardly pronounce it, indefatigable. And for those of you who don't know the meaning, it's tireless without the capacity to yield. And John, I got a call 6.5 years ago on my personal phone at home, and it was a call from Dalton, New Hampshire. And I enjoy meeting strangers, and this stranger invited me for a cup of coffee in Middleton. And it was a memorable morning. He quizzed me so ardently about our little experience appealing the 51-acre expansion which the state permitted Casella to have in our area. It was an unjustified expansion. It didn't relate to demographics or any real evidence on the ground for our region. What it was a 51-acre expansion to make room for the next 22 years or 30 years to bring in revenues for a private corporation that owns the landfill, a monopoly in Vermont. As I say, John questioned me then relentlessly, and I was glad to tell him what I knew. I've since followed John's work, and he has been tenacious, relentless. Without further ado, our guest speaker, John Swan of Dalton.
Well, good evening, and thank you for inviting me to come speak. I apologize in advance. My name is John Swan. I'm the founder of Save Forest Lake. And first off, I really need to preface my comments tonight with the statement that all of this is my opinion based on my experience and my research. And that stems from being sued twice by Casella Waste Systems in an effort to silence me. So, in fact, tomorrow is our scheduling conference for our trial, which will probably be in early 2026. Casella, as I said, they've sued me twice. The first lawsuit, I was sued for defamation in April of 2020. And we wound up settling that, and then 2 weeks later, they did not like the news article that came out about the settlement, and so then they sued me for violation of the agreement that we had reached. So, regardless, obviously, Henry, thank you for the kind words. I just feel like I just happened to be the right person that happened to settle in Dalton, New Hampshire. In 2014, we moved from upstate New York, where I met my second wife, and she had an opportunity to go back to New Hampshire for work, and she said, hey, we can move to New Hampshire, live free or die, no state income tax. So we moved to beautiful New Hampshire, the North Country, where everyone goes to vacation. And if you've never been to the area where Forest Lake is, in Dalton, it's beautiful, it's pristine, it's quiet, and we were very lucky to settle there. In fact, my wife had said, because she'd raised her kids in Littleton, where Henry and I met for coffee, And she was like, well, we're not going to look for houses in Bethlehem because there's a landfill there and it's been controversial. And we just don't want any part of that. So where do we settle? In Dalton, next door. So my fight began in 2019, and I am writing a book about this called Saving Forest Lake. And it's called Saving Forest Lake, or how a ragtag group of neighbors and strangers stop a multi-billion-dollar trash corporation from siting a landfill next to a pristine lake and beloved state park. Again, this whole thing started for me in 2019, April 3rd, 2019, when I went to a planning board meeting in Dalton where it was my first introduction to Casella. I'd heard about it the month before that this landfill was coming in. And I'm like, what? Who puts a landfill next to a lake, right? And a state park. And so we went to this meeting where Casella was there with their surveying company and their engineers, and select board members were there, and the landowner was there he was a willing landowner with 1,900 acres of land that they agreed to, they put under contract. They never even bought the land, in fact. The agreement, the second option is up December 11th of this year, and we've been told that the landowner is not extending. So everything with our fight is in court right now. Ironically, April 3rd, not 2019, but April 3rd, 2025, is when the New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services issued the denial letter for the solid waste permit application for the Granite State landfill, which is what it's called, GSL, Granite State landfill. So I feel that at this point our fight is, I feel like we've won. And again, I appreciate you wanting to hear what I have to say about my experience fighting Casella. As you can see, I had this made this year. It was basically, I lost weight since I started to exercise and take better care of myself after 6 years of just on the computer, reading, researching, and again, as everyone has said, Jillian said, you guys all know there's a lot of work that goes into fighting a company like this. Reading, knowing how to read lab reports, legal documents, where to find the legal documents. Because in New Hampshire, the Department of Environmental Services does a great job of hiding everything. Right to know law, it's just everything. So I'm a one-man show. When this started in 2019 for me, I looked at my wife and I said, the people I saw that were my neighbors who were at the meeting, I didn't see anyone jumping up and saying, we got to stop this. And I just looked at her and I was like, lucky us, right? So I owned it. Started Save Forest Lake. I was like, what's a catchy name, Save Forest Lake. Went on GoDaddy. Learned how to build a website, SaveForestLake.com. I invite you to visit SaveForestLake.com. I keep it updated all the time. And as Henry said, I don't sleep a lot. I'm starting to sleep now, which is great. Because I feel like I'm at a point in my life where after 7 years of this, almost 7 years and almost 6 years of lawsuits, which still is ongoing, costing me probably upwards of $300,000 in legal expenses, a lot of angst, but it's been worth it. Because with your beloved lake, we love our lake. And early on I learned about PFAS on the news down in the southern part of New Hampshire. In Merrimack, I saw the state was trying to strengthen environmental laws, regulations relative to PFAS. I'm like, I gotta learn more about that. And I saw the state reps who were leading that fight. I said, I gotta get in touch with them. Just like I got in touch with Henry. Just like I got in touch with Kirsty Petchy with CLF. Sierra Club. I reached out to anybody. I mean, in fact, my Yahoo account for Save Forest Lake at Yahoo, I have over 15,000 unread emails right now, because I subscribe to Google search for leachate, PFAS, landfills, odor, all that stuff. I want to become, you have to become a subject matter expert. And so now, of course, I wish I'd gone to law school, because I feel like I'm pretty adept at arguing relative to the law. In fact, I'm hoping to file a suit in New Hampshire against the Department of Environmental Services for not acting on information that I've been monitoring at the Casella landfill in Bethlehem. With their stage 6 operating permit, they've exceeded the permitted capacity a year and a half prematurely. But they're claiming that settlement is allowable, permissible, and thus, instead of 1.24 million cubic yards, or as using their conversion rate of 0.76, about 940,000 tons of waste over from 2020 to through the end of 2026. They've reached that a year and a half early, as of the end of Q2 2025. DES is saying, oh, Casella says that the landfill has settled, so they have more capacity. In New Hampshire, DES can only act on what the powers are granted according to the law. There's nothing in statute or in rules allowing for settlement to, in essence, discount tonnage. So, basically hoping to file a lawsuit. So we're working on that. So, I'm not gonna, I could talk for hours about everything I've gone through and done with this fight. It's not just me, though. We have a great group of people we work with. I mean, John Tuthill, here, he came up 2019, we introduced zoning. Because again, Dalton didn't have any zoning. So I looked at the law. We found a provision where we could introduce emergency temporary zoning as a means to help at least slow down, and it worked. We got it passed. Everyone was like, all my neighbors were like, not the right time to do zoning in Dalton, they won't go for it. Passed a petition, door to door, had a special town meeting. John, that's where I met John, July 23rd, 2019. Packed gymnasium in Dalton, 154 to 129 it passed. So, it was temporary. So it's for 2 years, and then we had to extend it another year. Planning board was working on zoning, permanent zoning. And again, this is what's going to be in the book. This is going to be a great movie. Really. Group of citizens banding together to save a beloved lake. Horrible villainous company. Casella is just the worst. John Casella, the rot there starts at the top of John Casella. Terrible person, in my opinion.
That's right.
I mean, if you look at and again, I had to learn. I learned from Dom. I learned from your fight. So thank you for fighting, because I learned from you. When the leachate truck spilled, by the Black River, 2019, I was on that. I was like, all this stuff helped us because we saw this company as a bad operator. And the point was, I call it pissing in the pool. Pissing in Casella's pool. Pissing in their cornflakes. I wanted to make sure, I treated this like a military campaign. Public opposition, find legislators in the state, multi-pronged assault to stop this project. Every stone unturned. Every, contract, permit, studied them. That's why right now, we've got them in Bethlehem. I think they're done in Bethlehem. The people there have voted time and time again. Over a 30-year period, they don't want Casella there. And I think we're there. And I think that's because you'll see if you kind of pay attention to what's going on in Littleton and Bethlehem. Now after 7 years in Dalton, they failed. They're not going to announce that. Casella does not like to announce In fact, tomorrow, I believe, is their earnings report. Probably won't say anything about what's going on in New Hampshire. I doubt they'll say anything about Vermont. They won't say anything about Maine, I'm sure. You know, Hawk Ridge just closed, right? Their composting facility in Maine, right? That's huge. But my problem is now, where's all that sludge going to go? Is it going to come to Vermont? Is it going to go to New York? You know, the folks, and again, that we reached out and worked with the folks in New York dealing with Casella's landfills and using all that negativity. The Ontario landfill, Ontario County landfill, the collapse of the cap there, it's like a 3.5 acre collapse in what, 2021, 2022? I mean, all that stuff, you build up this, it's like a court case. And I mean, we had an info sheet of all the impacts that we felt would happen to the lake and the area with truck traffic. 100 trucks going through tiny Whitefield, which could not handle that traffic. And again, you know, Pam was always great talking about, you know, the truck traffic coming through Vermont to Coventry and, you know, the impact. So again, all I can say is we won this fight, and I feel like we've won, because we're not going to allow this to happen. It will be tied up in court further. It's in court now because Casella, of course, is suing the state of New Hampshire, and you know they're trying to appeal based on the dormancy clause that DES cited to deny the permit. But we got them beat. Now we got to stop them in Bethlehem. I think we will, because of course now they're trying to get an expansion on the 100 acres of land that they bought adjacent to the NCS landfill, that they told the people in Bethlehem they would never buy more land than they did. Then it was going to be for sand and gravel. That's it. Then like a year later, oh, we need to expand. So then Bethlehem voted it down in 2017, 2018. That's when they pivoted to Dalton. We said no in Dalton. It was an ugly fight. It tore our town apart. I still think one of those people there is going to murder me. I really do. I've had threats, just from a small, tiny group of people, but they're ugly people, because they wanted this tax money that Casella was promising them. I learned a lot from our depositions, you know, because again, Casella's suing me. So we had, you know, depositions, and we deposed some of their employees who revealed a lot of telling information about how they worked amongst the population there in Dalton. And they had one paid employee that we found out, because he opened his mouth to a Globe reporter, Boston Globe reporter, did a story. Again, if you're interested, I have an exhaustive library of news reports, and that's the thing. We raise so much awareness, pissing in Casella's pool, exposing everything that they have done. The leachate truck accident here, the 154,000 gallon leachate spill in Bethlehem over May 1st through the 3rd, the weekend, 2021. Of course, Joe Gay said, we contained it all. And then, what do we hear now? Oh, because, and again, I've gone into the Ammonoosuc River, crossed it over to the NCS property, not going onto the property because I would be trespassing. But there is a seep. It's like a cascade of water that comes off the property. I tested that numerous times now, from 2023 to 2025. And guess what? The same 4 or 5 PFAS compounds are in that water. It's kind of like that little Aaron Brockovich learning how to do lab testing, taking it up to the lab and getting the PFAS report. DES doesn't care. It's going into the Ammonoosuc River. But the thing is, you know, we've used all this to build this case against Casella. And, you know, I think, in my limited knowledge of your fight, I think the next fight's going to be, where's the next landfill going to be sited in Vermont? Get this one closed. In my opinion, find an operator that's not named Casella, operate the state-owned landfill, so then with the Interstate Commerce Clause as a participant in the solid waste, you know, disposal of your state, you could say no to out-of-state trash, like Maine did. Just don't use Casella, you know? I mean, we look at waste management and Turnkey in Rochester, in the southern part of the state. They never have any complaints from people. There's no animosity. I mean, we look at Southbridge, Mass, right? those of you who know Southbridge, Mass, and that story of the landfill there, I mean, it's just, this company has such a terrible record, and they don't take ownership or responsibility. So, you know, again, my worry about the town of Bethlehem is with this PFAS that, and again, I was getting back to the 154,000 gallon leachate spill and Joe Gay saying, oh, we contained it all in reports. By the way, they've since fired, or he's no longer with them. Kevin Roy's going to, I believe Brian Oliver, the vice president, is also gone because they had another leachate management issue in Bethlehem. But in looping back to that, the contamination that's in all these surrounding groundwater wells at NCS, which I document, and use Photoshop to show where they're at and put it on social media. Use all of these avenues to expose what's going on. But they're now claiming that the old unlined landfill that they bought in 1993, and they excavated it all, put it into the new state-of-the-art double-lined landfill, stage 1 of NCS. And then they and DES all agreed, you got it all, hey, great. And there might be some residual groundwater contamination, but it'll natural attenuation and it'll dissipate. That whole site, by the way, drains into the Ammonoosuc River. It's all in the watershed. It's still going on today, and guess what? In those reports they send to DES, they still blame the old unlined landfill that they excavated and boasted about. And so it's, again, there's no mitigation going on right now there. So it's such a bad company. I stand with you. I'm more than happy to help D.U.M.P in any way I can, you know, and I think the key is, and as you're doing it, Henry's done it, Pam's done it, continue to network with others, work together, find new blood to help you in your fight. You gotta find those young kids. Where are the young kids today? You know, we gotta get them off their phones and let them recognize the fact that this is their water. You know, these are their children that are gonna be impacted by PFAS contamination. But this is water from my well at home. I've tested it. We tested all the wells around Forest Lake. We had no detectable PFAS contamination, which again helped our fight. Because why would you introduce PFAS-laden waste into a pristine site where even Casella's own test wells that they put there show no PFAS contamination? So 6 miles away from the Bethlehem landfill, which looks like a Christmas tree, when you look at all the wells that are contaminated, you go to the GSL site in Dalton next to Forest Lake, nothing, it's all clean. We tested at our own expense. DES, of course, wouldn't help us, they don't care. No contamination. So again, I think that's something that's going to help us too in our fight down the road, if they ever raise their ugly head again in Dalton. So again, I'm sorry, I'm just winging it. Does anybody have any questions? Because I know you probably have lives to get back to, and I'm happy to take any questions or thoughts. Yes, ma'am.
So your 4 runoff spots into the Ammonoosuc, where you're currently testing, finding PFAS or PFOA, a combination, I guess?
Well, PFOA was like one of the top ones. It's the second one.
Okay.
Every test. That's their big problem. They have exceedances of the AGQS at numerous wells.
Is that from the unlined landfill section, you think, that was excavated and not properly?
Do I think? No, I think they excavated the old unlined landfill and put it in the new one. I mean,
are those coming out of the old or the new?
They can't really tell where.
Okay, you don't know.
Because, well, here's what they've done. They've convoluted the whole landfill, because what they did was, just to give you an idea, here's the old 4-acre unlined landfill. Mr. Brown built it in 1976. So then, when Consummate Senko, the landfill company, came in, bought it, and then they ran it, and then basically they said it was the late 80s, we're going to build because I think at that time EPA was cracking down on unlined landfills, et cetera. So they are the ones who actually built stage 1, the double-line state-of-the-art landfill. Casella bought it in '93. So stage one was already pretty much built by Constantsenko. So to me, first of all, Casella bought a landfill where the bottom base was built by someone else. And if you look at the construction reports from back then, because again, I've spent hours in the basement of DES looking at these records, they were doing the seaming on the liner in like November in Bethlehem, right? What's the temperature? And they're seaming liners together. And then, you know, you look at all the different reports, and I just think the liners was compromised. But then what Casella has done is, in part because of their fight with Bethlehem has tried to contain that site. It built cells on top. So in essence, the whole landfill is still an active landfill. So I think what's going on is that, because I think Joe Gay and Kevin Roy, Joe Gay in particular, got fired. I think, in my opinion, last year they filed a report. They realized that over a 10-year period, from 2014 to 2024, they penetrated the stage 4 liner system, putting in gas wells. They didn't realize, and of course, DES is checking these documents, their own engineers. Over a 10-year period, they penetrated stage 4. But then in the report to DES, what do they say? We think it's okay because stage 1. Stage 1's still there. It's contained. It's like a bathtub, you know? It's like, hey, but it's 30 years old, right? And I think that's probably the main source. So I think they have small leaks, in essence, to get to your...
And someone in the room can speak to this with more knowledge than I have, but the last I heard years ago was that when we were meeting at the gateway, the state told us that they didn't have a way to probe the old unlined landfill, that there was no permitting available to determine what was leaching out of the old landfill. Who can speak to that? They weren't allowed to dig up or investigate or do anything. Someone must have knowledge of that.
Well, I don't recall exactly
The
that,
A&R said.
but I
yeah.
do recall that they were questioning the safety of digging up the old landfill and whether it would create more contamination. But I will parrot what John has said. When they detect PFAS, they say, oh, it's coming from the old unlined landfill.
They said that
which
very
was done with, you know, Mr. Nadeau, not, you know, us.
Right.
And then Waste USA bought it, which is very similar to what John just said. And so they blame everybody else, right?
And the
They
state
blame everything
claimed
else.
They couldn't do anything about it currently. Because
Right.
There's no legal
It's
way
still-
for the state.
It's still in
to
their
take any
plan,
action.
supposedly,
Okay.
in 2030, to dig up that old landfill and put it in the line cells. Whether they do it or not, and why it's taken so long,
Yes.
when that was a condition of the phase 4 back in 2013. And it hasn't been done yet.
Yeah, that meeting at the gateway, she did state clearly that, no, we can't look into that
Right.
any further. And I thought that's absurd.
And I can also tell you that if you look at PFAS compounds, the top 4 concentrations or 5 concentrations that are in leachate are also what is found in the under drains, which is the groundwater underneath the landfill.
Right.
So how come the groundwater underneath the landfill has the same PFAS
Wow.
that the top concentrations of leachate?
Under the new line
Exactly.
landfill as PFAS.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's maddening dealing with your DEP or DES because they just seem to be so in bed with these guys. And I don't get it. But I will say, again, this all could have gone a totally different way if Governor Sununu stayed in office. Because we turned out, right away I tried to reach out to him. It was like writing letters. Hey, come on, state tourism's threatened, our economy, all this. And it's like
Scary.
nothing, crickets. And I finally went to an executive council meeting and I introduced myself and met him. And I said, we need your help here in Dalton. We're trying to fend off this multi-billion-dollar trash company. And, we're just locals laymen who are we need help. And he's like, well, what do you want me to do about it? And that's what he said to me. So thank God for Governor Ayotte, who I didn't vote for her because she was a Republican, but she has seen, and I think Senator Rochford, who's a Republican in our area, but he recognizes the value of a clean, healthy environment. And to me, this is the argument from the very beginning that we made. This is a nonpartisan issue. I mean, it's clean water, clean air, clean soil. I mean, this shouldn't know any political boundaries whatsoever. And that was what was maddening to me. I spent more time in the halls of Concord talking to people, and you know, I finally found that as much as, you know, in my if you know anything about my past, as I was talking to Teresa about the other day, I mean, Casella brought this up, and they've just tried to trash me and do everything, opposition research, digging up my past. I was a past conservative activist in upstate New York, where I used to live. You know, George W. Bush, joined the Army after 9/11, all that good stuff. Had a radio show, blah, blah, blah. But I'd go up to these guys in the halls of Concord, and I'd say, Al, you know, a guy with his Trump tie back in 2019, 2020, he'd say, Al, we're on the same side of the political aisle. I said, help me out here, vote for this bill that'll help us to protect state parks. Nothing. And I'd go and talk to the crazy liberals, and I actually found out they were really nice people. And I feel like I've changed. I mean, it's made me a better person, you know, and of course we live in a crazy world today, but I find solace in the fact that, you know, I was out there with the 7 million people, no kings, and it was great. You know, I know everybody in the area. I know a lot of people. What's great is people come up to me and go, you're John Swan, aren't you? Guy Staples did that when I was printing my ethics complaint I was filing against the commissioner the other day. He looked at the paper and goes, you're John Swan? And it's kind of cool. But it's like I'm enjoying going back now into my little black hole, my hole of anonymity, and, you know, as John Tuttle will tell you, I mean, you know, I didn't know anybody before this started, and, you know, when I was on a fireside chat with Marianne Williamson during her campaign, and I told her, I said, the silver lining in all of this, not only will hopefully it help me get me in the pearly gates, but I met a lot of my neighbors who I would have never met before. A lot of people I would have never met, all you people. Because I'm a very private person. I like my private life. My 15 acres of private Idaho and upstate New Hampshire. I just wanted to be left alone after Iraq. You know, I came back in 08, 09, and just wanted to live. And my wife was like, let's go to New Hampshire. It's quiet, peaceful. But it is, guess what? We still laugh. The other morning, we're like, no trash trucks dumping, no construction, no odor, just smell the air, you know. And it's like we look at each other and we pinch ourselves because we love to walk in our area where we live, and it's like we spent countless hours because she ran for office in Dalton at the select board. I'm on the Conservation Commission now, but the politics are so ugly, and we would just talk about that. It's just like, oh my gosh, we move, you know, and it's like, it was just unbearable. And the people were so ugly that wanted this landfill. But we've persevered. You have to have perseverance if you're going to get this fight. You have to have a thick skin. And I sued twice, but you know what? The feeling of winning makes it all worthwhile, you know, so. Anyway, thanks to Governor Ayotte, I think that was the ultimate nail in the coffin.
Thanks to Governor Ayotte. But what about,
Well, Governor Scott, right? He's going to be gone, right?
well,
At some point.
how long do we wait? Does the new
But again, it's politics, right? So you got to find who's the candidate. I mean, I can't tell you how many candidates I've talked to.
But I guess, John, what I'd like to hear is the advice you have about the bias that the governments, because the governor then hires a DEC or the A&R like in our, neck of the woods, and it's just like, you can't do anything. Plus,
Got Casella on his race car, right? For how many years?
Casella is also ruling the rules a little bit in nonprofits in our local area. So if they want to, donate, to him, or it's just like.
But again, I think you just gotta persevere. You gotta outlast him. And you got to identify what is your goal going to be. You want to get this landfill closed, right? That's the goal?
Yep.
So then you got to find what's going to be the solution then. Where's your waste going to go? So you got to, you know, in New Hampshire right now, we're fighting to get a site evaluation committee. I don't think we're ever going to need another landfill. Our problem in New Hampshire is that we have capacity and we have companies like Waste Management down south bringing in 50% of what they're landfilling from Massachusetts. You got Casella buying routes in Massachusetts and Connecticut. Connecticut closing Myra. And so guess what? They're exporting. Where's it going? Right now, fortunately, I mean, not fortunately, but I think a lot of it's going, that would have gone to Bethlehem, that would have gone to GSL. It's going to New York State. You know, GSL, they wanted 600,000 cubic yards a year in their permit. Bethlehem is permitted for 230. It's 2.5 times greater than Bethlehem. And no one at DES even flinched. There's like no need for it. So again, that's just part of the whole multi-pronged attack, is identifying what the flaws are, what's wrong. So what's wrong with this landfill? You got to emphasize what's wrong with it, and just you got to broadcast that. You just got to keep talking about the water and the Canadians, you know, and drinking water. You got to hammer that home, you know. And then you got to start talking to the politicians and working. Believe me, I hate going to meetings and parties and all this, you know, the political party events. I mean, I go to the Democratic Party events, and thank God you guys are using reusable dinnerware. I still see them on social media. They're Democrats, red Solo cups. It's like, what the hell's wrong with you people, right?
I think the point, and I do believe we've made a lot of progress to this place. It's not about party. It is not about politics. You said it, and I think we need to stay focused on that. It's not even about Governor Scott, even though some people like to target him, but he will not be the governor forever. It's the legislators that we need to build alliances with, and it's the public we need to build alliances with. I ran for office a couple of years ago, lost. I'm a Democrat in a very Republican area, but when I was talking to the constituency, the one topic that opened up everybody's eyes and mouths was the environment. People care, and it don't matter what party they are. And we've just got to take that really high road.
You guys, I mean, look at how many people are in this room. I mean, you're at a greater advantage than I was. It was just me. I was trying to bring my neighbors along. I mean, it's like, it took them several years to realize that PFAS was going to be a very sexy topic for us, you know? I mean, it was like, oh my God, people, the more they learned about the threat posed by PFAS, because back in 2019 when, you know, I mean, I went down to Concord to the 3M was suing the state to challenge the new standards for the 4 PFAS that are regulated in New Hampshire. And I went there, and then they found one town, the town of Plymouth, their water department, or their village, you know, sewer department, whatever, to join the 3M lawsuit along with RMI. They do the land application of biosolids. So they joined with 3M. So I went to the courtroom. No one's there except those legislators that cared, myself, and a couple other activists. And then I think Kent Street was outside protesting. But, you know, again, it's just, you got to find every avenue that's going to help you in your messaging. But you have so many people here. And it's like Amway. You all know 3 people, 5 people. Go on, find 5 people, bring them to the next meeting. You know? But anyway.
What John has not mentioned, soon after you called us and learned about our appeal of the expansion, you brought with you at least as many people as are in this room. And you joined us. We stood together. We were a group of about 90.
It's a great day.
And Robert with his Canadian flag, I'll always remember it. In the rain, on the day of the
It's their open
Casella
house.
Coventry landfill
Come have hot dogs
open
at the
house.
dump. Who goes to the dump to eat hot dogs?
Yeah, and we were there lined, and you brought a huge New Hampshire contingent. You buoyed our spirits.
And guess what? And it's just another example of you. We caught every time we held a protest at one of those things. They didn't talk about the Casella open house. They talked about us being out there and what our issues were. So it's just, I love a good protest. I mean, to me, it's like, you get all these people with signs. I mean, just like the No Kings. I mean, that was really cool. And then when you get Trump doing an AI jumping shit on us, it only helps us. So anyway, I don't really have anything else, but
When we have this committee that's forming related to media, I don't remember the name of the committee. I mean, that open house is really telling. I've been to it. People should go to that open house. And every year I talk to people around me, I'm like, oh, next week, the open house, or in a couple weeks, this open house, you should really go to the landfill. It's really informative. You go up on the school bus, you'll see everything. And they're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, no, you should go. I've never gotten anyone to go. But this committee might really want to work on that. Whether you're for or against or you know nothing. When
you
you
should
go to
take
that
advantage of
landfill,
that. Totally.
they show you everything.
Totally.
You know what I mean?
In fact, we didn't
On the power in numbers.
It's an amazing tour, and I've done it many times, and it really opened my eyes. And they're
Well, that's
hiding,
when
but
everything's
they're not hiding.
closed. That's when everything's closed. They got
They've got
ponies
no
there,
trash,
and it's like,
they've got extra
Get your face
sensors
painted
all over the place.
and-
They're blowing all the scents all over the place, but then they do take you up and you get to ask questions. I asked some very difficult questions of the engineer who was from Connecticut, and I don't remember his name, but he was one of the top engineers, and he actually answered, I think, relatively truthfully to some of the questions that we were asking, honestly, because it didn't reflect well on Casella.
I think those opportunities for open houses, those
Yeah.
are great opportunities to get out there and protest. And
Yeah.
in fact, a reporter called me this September to see if we were protesting in Bethlehem, because this was the first year we didn't. And I told him, I said, we got them beat in Dalton. I said, they're not going to get any support in Bethlehem. I said, we're all going to enjoy the beautiful Saturday fall day and not spend 3 hours standing outside and watching the 5 people that drive in for free hot dogs. I mean, who goes to the landfill, But again, the fact that the reporter called me to see if we were going to be out there again, just so that he could report on it. I mean, it's a great opportunity. And every time you go to a public meeting, always videotape, take pictures. Social media, if you go to my YouTube account, you'll see like 400 or 500 videos. I mean, I've got so much on there, but I record everything because the people, I've been threatened. I had these guys come up, and I'm just recording an Dalton Select Board meeting. They come up and threaten me. And I'm like, you do know I'm recording this, right? And I'm going to post it with your name tomorrow. I mean, one guy's a school teacher, he's an educator. And it's like, what is it about, what would make you so angry that you would come threaten me, all in support of a landfill? It's just like, it brings out the worst in people, but. So anyway, thank you. You guys are great. I really do. Henry, I love you guys. I learned so much from D.U.M.P. We owe a lot to you guys. You guys, Southbridge, the Bethlehem folks. I mean, this guy here, you have a treasure right here, JT. Had protest, had meeting, will travel. He goes everywhere. He lives in Claremont, New Hampshire, in that area. So, again, thank you all, really.